Welcome back to the Republican National Convention in St. Paul. We're joined now by one of my broadcasting heroes, one of my role models, Steve Handelsman, who taught me a lot of what I know, most of what I know, for good or bad. There's a little bit of both in there.
I'll ask you about the bad later. Let's talk about Republicans.
But Steve is here covering the convention. He's NBC News Channel's national correspondent. The biggest stories of the convention today didn't happen at the convention or anywhere near here. The first one had to do with Bristol Palin's baby bump and a new addition to the Palin family that's coming. Bristol Palin is pregnant. She's 17 years old, having the baby with her boyfriend. They're going to get married. But what's the political impact of all that?
You know, we don't know. I mean, first of all, you've got a brand new character. Nobody had ever heard, except for a tiny handful of people outside of Alaska, nobody had ever heard of Governor Sarah Palin. She's young. All the names that were put out there as John McCain's possible choices, she wasn't on anybody's list. And so McCain's made his bold, maverick move. And now we know that he barely knew her. And his campaign says that they did know that Sarah Palin's teenage kid, who's going to be a high school senior, got pregnant around the same time that mom was about to give birth to child number 5. But you know, depending on how they spin it, and if this is the only surprising thing that we learn about the Palin family, maybe it'll be okay. But you got to wonder if they try to make this into we're a real right-to-life family. We're a family that doesn't believe in abortion. I, Sarah Palin, the vice presidential candidate for the Republicans, had myself checked out when I became pregnant, learned that the baby would be born with Down syndrome, and we did not terminate that pregnancy. Our daughter is pregnant at 17. She will not terminate the pregnancy. Well, the hard right, the Republican core, and a lot of, you know, not so right-wing, very anti-abortion rights Americans will say, here, here. Others will look and go, whoa. Who are those people? So we'll see how it plays.
What's her strategy for Wednesday night? Most people in this country don't know her, have never heard from her. What would you tell her?
Well, if we hadn't seen her do so well, really come across as charismatic, knowledgeable, with the right tone when she was introduced as McCain's pick, then we wouldn't have anything to base it on. Then you'd really see people, you know, digging their fingernails into their seats here. I'm like, God, McCain, what's she going to say? But now we know that she can do it. You know, this is how she prevailed over the old boy network in Alaska. She's charismatic, she's cool, she knows what she believes in, and she can express it verbally, which some people would argue John McCain can't do. He's got a lot of beliefs, but he's not a great orator. She's very charismatic, and probably do surprisingly well here for somebody. I say surprisingly because she's a newcomer. She's a neophyte. She's young. She's green. She should screw up. Yeah. Probably won't.
Well, we're sure she'll get a huge ovation when she comes here. When we heard her name announced, she got a huge ovation here today. Two other people got huge ovations, Laura Bush, Cindy McCain, somebody who wasn't here to get an ovation at all, President Bush and Vice President Cheney, because of Hurricane Gustav. Is Hurricane Gustav a net plus politically?
My belief, and I'm not really a pundit or a prognosticator, but my gut is when you just add everything up is it'll work out better for the Republicans than had there have been no hurricane. Because it gives McCain a chance to go out and scrub away Katrina. Let's say there were a little minor hurricane and it headed toward New Orleans. Everybody's thinking Katrina. One of the worst things to happen to the Bush administration, worse than this oil crisis. Some would argue even worse than Iraq, because it would have been so easy to have done it right. And they did it wrong two ways. It made Bush look callous, and then in retrospect, it was destined to be poorly done because he put somebody in the head of as FEMA who wasn't capable of running it. It was a terrible black eye for the Bush administration. Some people think that was when the popularity of the president took a nosedive from which it will never recover. And so, coincidentally, here we are just one day after the 3rd anniversary of Katrina. Here comes another Category 3/4 hurricane going right to the Big Easy. John McCain looks around and he goes, wow, thank you, God. Here's a chance to show in an identical situation that I'm not George Bush. Right. Number one, I will show compassion. Easy. He just picks up the phone and goes, convention's on hold, and puts it down. He's the candidate. Forget the Republican Party, the delegates. There's one guy who decides what this is going to look like here in St. Paul. He's John McCain. He said how it's going to look is you're going to be as low-key as you could be. You're going to do your little, legal stuff, gavel, put my wife on, the president's wife, and I'm going to grab the headlines by going out there and saying a lot of things about how I'm compassionate. And note one thing that McCain said today. He opened his mouth, the first words were critical. This communication gear here, it's not up to snuff. It's way better than it was, but we need to get this better. People go, ooh, look at him. Yeah. That's a tough guy. That's a guy who's honest, not trying to paper over it. That's the John McCain I've been hearing about. Because people don't follow him. Arizonans follow John McCain. Other people, what do you know about John McCain? He was a POW. He's supposed to have a bad temper, and he ran and lost in 2000. Right. But the Maverick thing, I see it right there. I just saw it on TV tonight. He's just like that, changed his convention, just like that, out there putting his arms around people, just like that, a little bit critical, and so it's a windy explanation to lead around. I think it's positive.
We look forward to it. One last question. This is my first convention, Steve. You've covered a lot of conventions over the years.
This is number 16.
Number 16 for Steve Handelsman. That's how old he is. So you can add him back and try to figure it out. So how weird is this whole thing? I mean, there's been almost nothing happening behind us for this entire convention, even when there was supposed to be nothing happening behind us, or something happening behind us. How does this compare contextually?
You know what? It doesn't feel that weird. And that's kind of countercurrent to what you might think, because in fact, objectively, it is weird. But reporters come to these things ahead of time. We're used to seeing the room look like this. And at home, we're not talking about the 60s when people, sat riveted watching every day, where they had afternoon sessions and night sessions. As you know, it was really important. They debated the platform. They had fights over who the vice president would be. There were disruptions outside. There were walkouts inside. Would the party come together? It was very dramatic. Everybody watched it. It was live. These are boring 4-day infomercials. They're horrible in terms of holding the interest of the audience. And what people tune in for, what the major networks tune in for, is an hour a night. And so I'm sure that if they get back on track here in St. Paul for nights 2, 3, and 4, or even just 3 and 4, if all people remember from this is Sarah Palin's speech, the roll call vote, John McCain, the balloons come down, Palin and McCain, arms up, out come the spouses, out comes Bristol with the bump, that everybody's going to just remember it was a regular old convention.
Right. Although last week was an exceptional convention.
Well, it didn't end in the way that this one is going to end. I think the Obama people, they're very, very sharp and savvy. You still don't know really whether it's Barack Obama himself. They looked around, they said, how can we be different? We've got a different candidate, are we going to have a different convention? And they took the risk that the McCain people, and maybe a lot of people who've seen those, he's just a celebrity, he's not a leader, he's more like Paris and Brittany than he is like Bill Clinton. They took the risk. They said, we're not going to apologize. The guy is popular for the right reasons. Put him in a stadium, let him give a serious speech, people go crazy. Folks at home, people like to join a movement. They look and they go, I think I'll get in on that. McCain can't do that. But what he can do now, having had the maybe extra attention from, are they going to come back and they have a convention, is at least put out his new young running mate, hopefully hop over these little controversies, and she gives a killer speech, and maybe he gives a better speech than he normally gives, and maybe we come out of these twin conventions with a double bump. We're right back where we were, which is almost tied.
All right, and very nice. Lots of bumps we're talking about here tonight. And
bumps and bumps.
Okay. Right. Steve, thank you so much.
Elex.
Well done.
You're the man.
As always, you're the man. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more convention coverage throughout the week. Thanks for downloading us. See ya.